How can you tell?
I don't know.
We're both playing for the same joke here, but I thought it was coming a lot quicker than it was. There we go.
Yeah.
How could you tell?
I mean, Garma clearly did not think much of himself.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, this is Lessons, and we are back with another episode of the OG Mobile Suit Gundam. Before anything else though, we have a couple of comments to go over. From the Patreon, we have Marta Kira Ayanami from the episode Re-Entry to Earth. I agree with Theta. If you plan to improvise, or if you plan to do B if A succeeds, but do C if A fails, it so is a plan. So I agree with you there, Theta, wholeheartedly. I guess it's a bit subjective, but I've never thought, in 3 decades even, that anybody could consider such matters differently. Well, you learn something new every day. But yeah, with you on this one, my guy. Happy face.
I'm gonna touch on that again. We'll be half an hour or more discussing that, so let us move on.
Well, that was more of a transitive discussion. I know I had it mostly with Justin before. And then you just disagreed out of the blue, and then that was your statement on the matter. But I think we did have a half an hour discussion, me and him, about planning to improvise. Obviously, I think any improv D&D group would agree that you can plan to improvise, because it's the majority of D&D planning. In fact, I think, sorry, I know we're not really talking about it, but it just occurs to me, what is the game? Something in the Dark. Blades in the Dark.
Blades in the
Dark and games like that have that whole, let's not actually make a plan, but when we get there, we're going to make a little bit of rolls, and those rolls are going to determine how the plan itself actually plays out. So those are actually technically planned to improvise games. So it's not like it's not a thing.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of the Fortune in the Dark games, because they feel more like blanking on the word right now. Board games rather than role-playing games.
It depends. Again, I guess it's all table matters, but I don't know. I also kind of like the idea of what you're saying, board games. Like when I played D&D campaigns in the past where it was all about fighting in a war, so that you get like this, here's a map of the region, here's where we know things are going to be. How do you plan to do this, this, and this? And you send out your little NPCs to do stuff while you're handling stuff personally. And I know we kind of did that sort of thing in your campaign as well, but we used a different guy's, Matt Colville, whatever I think it was, his little system.
Colville system, system.
Yeah, but I think that was mostly about battles and not so much the overarching thing, because I'm talking about like when you watch a war movie and people are like pushing little things across the battle map to indicate where they are. That sort of thing. So yeah, I kind of like playing Risk inside of a thing. I've also
I don't mind it, but I don't what I mind about something like Blades and Fortune in the Dark. Not all Fortune in the Dark games do this, but it feels like everything gets crunched down into a board game, right?
Well, I know Fortune in the Dark you handle, because it's very specifically a game made for a specific world, in that you have a map where you're keeping track of like what factions are where and doing what. But I was going to say, I've done the same sort of thing with with GM turns in Stars Without Number is what uses that mainly, but I like ported that to D&D and everything like that, where I have like my campaign map, and my campaign map I'm like, okay, well, this faction wants to take over this because their goal is to inflict X amount of, points to whatever faction. So they've got, just change the Stars Without Number GM turn like units into D&D fantasy units and whatnot.
Yeah, there is a fantasy version of of that game, and a cyberpunk.
Well, Dungeon World and the other one, they use the same terms, but they don't mean the same things.
No,
I'm literally have gotten in debates about it before, that they also use the word fronts, but Stars Without Number and Dungeon World use fronts as meaning 2 different things.
No, I mean literally. There's a Worlds Without Number, which is their fantasy version, and there's the Cities Without Number, which is their cyberpunk version.
Well, I got into it using that system only when knowing Stars Without Number. So
Yeah, which I own. But I'm now trending more to Traveler, and I don't know.
yeah, well, we
Wasting my
tried
money
that,
on
and we only got one episode or one session in. So
Yeah.
all right. Next up, these are from YouTube, obviously now. Bruce Ingram from Vote to Attack. In the trilogy of novels Tamino wrote after the show and probably closer to his original vision, he confusingly decided to swap the name and class of the ship around, so we get the white base class Pegasus.
Which are still called by the enemies the Trojan horse for some reason.
Well, I am in the confusing point, and I guess you'll eventually learn that we have the Archangel in Seed.
Yeah.
Which is then referred to by the enemies as the legged ship. Which is weird, because, I mean, it looks just basically like White Base. Nobody calls White Base the legged ship. Alright. Lastly, we have Ado Chang from the episode Destroy Gundam. The original Gundam was broadcast a few years after the end of the Vietnam War, during the height of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. I think it reflects the state of the world at that time. That's why I think it was a great drama.
I mean, yeah.
So, how about you go ahead and tell us what happened last time?
Yeah, last time it was episode 10, Garma's Fate. Char coolly watches Garma romance Icelina, yeah. Esconobak. Okay, I don't know which language that's supposed to be, but it's a word.
She's
Daughter of the
literally living in America. So.
Yeah, daughter of the former mayor of New York. Not New York.
Oh, Eschenbach. That's obviously German, right?
Yeah, New York. I don't know what New York is.
The problem is that I know now that you're literally reading from a wiki entry or something. Because we were having this debate before. We didn't have this debate. I invoked a Justin rule. And now I guess you're forcing it because you're saying this out loud. The implication is early on that they're in California. But the wiki entry says New York. And that's why I was talking about it last time. There's a confusion about where this landed elite is actually from. I still say that they're in California, that there's Los Angeles. So I debate the New York angle only specifically because we're pretty sure we know where White Base came down. And they would have to have crossed the entire country heading, namely, in the wrong cardinal direction to get to New York. Or I guess technically Garma could be launching from New York as they head towards a southeast direction, but that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, but I know about some stuff that happens later. And also we know from Origins that that was the control zone, Garma's control zone. It was Western United States, most United States, North America. But
yeah, because in Origin we see him standing in front of the Hollywood sign. So again, it still stands to reason that it is in Los Angeles, that they would be. I have problems with it saying that they're in New York. And again, the fact that I now know you're reading from the wiki article when it comes to the recap. If you hadn't said New York, I wouldn't have even paid attention.
Geographical problems aside, I guess that nuking half of the world really did a number on locations and geography. Upon hearing a report from the White Base hiding within the city, Garma sets out in his new Gaul attack carrier. Char volunteers to launch a ground attack with Saku to help his friend out, but a fearsome conspiracy lies in hiding. And that conspiracy essentially is that the battle goes against Garma. Garma decides, and the reason why it does is because Char is supposed to be feeding information for him because he went to the ground, like, hey, I can do a ground search. Notices that the White Base is hiding to ambush the enemy, the Gaul, and is escorting fighters, and tells Garma to go in a certain direction that would put him in the crosshairs of the white base. White base alongside gun tank, gun cannon, and gun tank and gun cannon because something else is happening with the with Gundam. Launch an attack on the Gaul, damage it. Garma, because nobody ejects on these things, decides that he's going to take the white base with him and tries to kamikaze him with the remains of the Gaul, but he fails and dies. And the episode ends with news reaching side 7, side 3, which is where the where Zeon is at. Monsu, reaching the Sabi family, especially the leader, the head of the Sabi family, that his youngest son is dead.
And he stands up.
He stands up, and the cane, he drops the cane dramatically into the floor while he's sitting in a chair inside this not very evil palace thing that the Sabi family apparently lives in. Giant face thing, and that's the end of the episode as far as I know.
Yeah. I didn't bring it up at the beginning, and it's a weird place to bring it up now, but I guess I will. Obviously, Justin is not with us at the moment, and it's been already announced in the scheduling area, everything like that, that eventually Justin is going to be leaving us in the month somewhere. So he couldn't join us today, so that's why we have the old style layout with me and lessons, and eventually this is just what we're going to be working with now. So the lessons rule, that is with Legends of the Galactic Heroes. The Justin rule is not in effect today, but now it becomes the Theta rule, because I obviously don't know as much as Lessons does. So I guess just keep in mind what I might not know and don't ruin me. The Macross thing, right? Don't tell me what you wouldn't tell me in Macross.
You haven't watched since episode 14, which is coming up pretty soon, right?
I mean, obviously, for the sake of what we're recording now, don't tell me anything past what we're recording right now.
Yeah, of course.
Keep the continuity in line. Obviously, I think anybody... Let's bring up the board right now while we're talking. We can just segue into that from there. But from every time we've ever been on the board that there's this giant white thing that says do not open until episode 17, which implies how far I've seen before. But that is just the old thing. Because every time I've had to remake this one, I've literally just gone over here and copy and pasted what I've had from over there. And we're getting so close to the point now that I just copy and paste the whole board, bring it over, and delete the parts that haven't appeared yet.
Yeah.
So obviously, we've got what? What are the changes? We got the cook, Tamura. He showed up making hamburgers.
Yeah, especially for Amuro, so he could eat better.
Well, also we extra for the pilots, yeah. But
the big one, of course, is the death of.
Yes, the death of Bison.
Of Garma.
M. Bison. Yep, last episode, Garma died, as you brought up in the recap, and Degwin stands up. That's the thing we've only seen him do 3 times as the result of something. Revel betrays him, he stands up. Garma dies, he stands up. I don't think he even stood up for Sasro. Well, he must have been standing in front of the funeral.
Yeah. I think he also standing in front of a glass when he was talking. No, he was sitting down when Garen was giving him the discussion later on. It's like, oh, we have to do this and we have to do that. But yeah, I think he stood up later on. But yeah.
And of course, as you said, Icelina and her father Joseph, their inclusion. Eichenbach. So, I mean, it's got an umlaut. That's the only language I know that does umlauts. German. Yeah, don't know what happens to Big John. He just walks off, but he was in the middle of a combat zone, so who knows. Bobson was in Garma's command. Don't know. Don't know if he was on the ship or not, so...
Yeah, No, I think he was. He was the second in command. They both died. He got knocked out.
We've seen Bobson back at the command post though too, so he might have just been operating like the bigger picture sort of stuff.
So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sabis, well, 6, 2 are gone. The second oldest
there's 8
and
Sabis.
the youngest. Well, from
Degwin,
that one particular.
Garion, Sastro, Dozel, Ziana, Kycelia, Garma, and Maniva.
Oh, but Ziana is a wife of Dozel, so that's not.
She's a Zabi by marriage.
Yeah, but I don't think that counts.
Has to count.
On Char's list?
Degwin, well, I mean, it might be. Why would Zena get any special benefit? I mean, she was like in the class with Lino, and Lino fucking died. If Lino knowing who Char is was enough to get him to be killed, you gotta think literally sleeping with the enemy has to be up there. It certainly doesn't earn you any good points, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is Char we're talking about, so yeah.
Because, I mean, is Maniva a bad person in Char's eyes? She's literally last name Zabi. I have to think that if you change your last name to Zabi or you born into a Zabi, you're probably part of the bad guys in his eyes.
No more Zabis. Ever.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Garma was like his best friend in the Zabi family, and he pulled that, so.
I think it was one-sided.
Well, you, me, and Griffin all disagree then. Sorry, once again, if you don't know, most of the time when I'm getting my Theta's thoughts, for the audience, not you, I think I told you before, I get most of my Theta's thoughts from the last time around to save myself some time by listening to the transcript, so I then also have to hear what Griffin thought about last time, and we were pretty on par with our thoughts that Garma and Char basically had a friendly rivalry more so than an antagonist rivalry.
I mean, the way I see it is Char doesn't really have friends except for one person, and he doesn't care about anybody.
Garma is like asleep in the room with him, and then he's just like, oh, look at him, and puts a blanket over his back. Garma's asleep. No one's watching. That was just for him and Garma. That's a friendly move. Dude's like antagonizing Garma, but it turns into a friendship. And, they just prod fun at each other. They helped each other through the schooling, and
yeah, but Char always has most of the time has an alternate reason for it.
Yeah, Dune was asleep.
Yeah, but that's a pet the dog moment that doesn't really overdo everything else. Just the one thing, that one time is not enough, considering, he didn't spare him when he had the chance. He lied to him and he got killed. So, yeah.
I think it is enough in that the economy of scenes is that you only show us stuff that matters. They chose to spend time to show us happening, which means it means more than nothing. Like, if they didn't show it at all, what would it change, right? So they showed it to us they showed it to us for a reason. That's my perspective. The pet the dog moment is a weird thing to bring up. It's like, why would you pet the dog you're planning to kill? I guess unless you're a U.S. senator. God, I hope these videos remain timely. All right, well, speaking of Theta's thoughts then, unless you got anything you want to say about the board.
Not really.
All right. I feel like it's always your response. Unless you want to say something about the board. Nope, fuck the board. Okay, moving on. I have to wonder if Char's effort to sabotage Garma 2 episodes back didn't also remove their chance to take out White Base. So far, we've seen the White Base taking conventional munitions, but we know that Garma was going to fire an energy beam a la battleship counterparts. I don't think we've seen the Gundam take a hit from one of those before, so no telling if that could have worked. On the same token, we also know that they want to take both vehicles in one piece. So, who knows if Char would have even wanted that to happen. regardless of Garma's situation?
I think it's more that Char saw the opportunity to kill Asabi, and do so in a way that wouldn't really hurt his chances, right? And so it's like, sure, I'll take it, right? And then later on, if the white base happens to be around and so happens to be the Gundam, I can go after them in a later date.
I don't think we have any point of reference to think that Char thinks he can take out the white base with any ease, given the fact that he had to use Garma's failure to prove that his failures weren't entirely his own fault. So the idea that we then get white base into an opportune position to be taken out by the Gaw, it could have caused a win to not happen, right? We don't know as of yet if the white base could have sustained battleship level fire.
I mean, and again, I think it's also the Char, given the chance, he will prioritize his vengeance over anything else.
I mean, I would agree with you to agree. I wouldn't say his vengeance. I would say his opportunity. Because constant point of view I put out is that Char is not a planner. Char is an opportunist.
Also, there's a thing. Remember, he overheard the conversation between Garma and Icelina. If Garma really went through the idea that if he failed, he was going to quit the family and marry Icelina and go his own way, that means that Char doesn't have that anymore, right? He might get out of from his grasp, right?
I would argue it'd make him easier to kill.
Yeah, but he had to go out of his way to kill him.
He's going out of his way for the whole thing.
No, but in a way that doesn't trace to him like he went out and killed him, right? And somebody might see him going, like, yeah, he's more vulnerable outside of Savvy protection, of course. You can just, get a taco and stepped on him. But it's like, oh, you were on patrol. Then we haven't heard, because I'm sure Cassilia is keeping tabs on him, even if it's outside of the family. You might quit the family, but the family doesn't quit you. Right? You see what I'm getting at?
I think it also makes it so that Garma would be the last person you would have to kill, because then you would go after the people in military control first. You take out the bigger threats. The only reason he killed Garma was opportunity. Once again, that's my perspective.
So he took opportunity. That's what I'm saying.
So you would kill everybody else in the zombie family, and then who's left to protect Garma? Oh no, it's another car bomb. Oh no, he was too close to a war zone. Accidents. You can kill Garma with an accident. You've got to get into a situation to kill everybody else.
Yeah. So, and it also doesn't mean that he might not be taken back. I mean, he was the favorite song. So if it says like he can convince his father to take him back, he could be back in the fold anyway, right?
I mean,
it could be like a 5-minute retirement. We don't know because he's never got a chance. I just see this as Char saying, "Here's the opportunity. I'm going to take it. I'm going to start my plan to either." And also, I think he might have been the Char. I mean, this is the first time he actually targets a Sabi family member, right? He's never been in that position before. So it could literally be, okay, either I do it now or I'm never going to do this, right? He's a competent fighter. He's willing to kill. We know that. But crossing that line, going after the family that controls his government, that's a big line to cross, even for Char, right? So I'm thinking that maybe in the back of his mind, calculating all this at the moment, it's like, if I don't do this now, I may not have a chance. And I have to recalculate somehow. No, fuck it. And maybe they said, "That's it. I liked you, but it was an accident of your family, of your birth, right? That you were born a Savvy. That sucks to be you." Which, by the way, nobody recorded that conversation. Nobody was in that net and heard about it. Yeah.
Remember, he waited till basically the other two guys got shot by the Gundam, so the guys on the ground with him weren't there. Everybody in the air was already dead, and by the time he says it to Garma, he wouldn't know this, obviously, but Garma's the only guy left on the bridge. Like, the other guy got flung off, then Garma takes control of the controls. There's nobody left around him. There's fire raging on board the bridge. So, assumedly, he maybe pulled another Lino. Hey, we're on an isolated channel. I can say whatever the fuck I want. Because just like pilots bailing out of Zaku's, switching channels just doesn't happen. I have a thing on here about Garma's final moments, but just imagine, what if Garma's final moments wasn't a Zeke Zeon, glory to the state sort of thing, but a hail the base we just came from. Hey, Char just betrayed us. Char's trying to kill us. Don't trust Char. Could have changed everything.
Or you simply switch, record it and send it like, yes, of course, you betrayed me. You bastard. Send.
Well, I just mean he had the moment to give his final, Zeke Zeon moment thing.
Although,
which was just a broadcast because clearly Char heard it. So if he just switched signals and spent those same amount of wordage, same amount of time to warn anybody about Char, even just a Char killed me.
Yeah.
Sorry, this thought goes back to Babylon 5 when they're trying to kill the Emperor. And how fast does the poison work? Doesn't have time to stumble back and say something? But Char doesn't care about that shit. Alright, next thought. Evidently, Lieutenant Matilda took the injured civilians with her, as well as Reed, which is why we still have civilians on board. Just not the injured ones. Pointedly, all the sexist lines we've gotten so far have come from Amuro. Everyone else is just fine with women holding any position they want.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something in the future that kind of explains that a little bit, but not too much.
Okay. Weird defense.
I'm not defending. I'm just saying that there might be something that gives us insight into why Amuro is being a dick, basically.
I will say that when I brought this up with Griffin pointed out that Amuro is a teenager, and maybe that's why.
But he's not the only teenager.
I don't know what that has to do with anything either. It's also a weird defense.
I wouldn't fall on that one, yeah.
It's got to be so minor, but I'm keeping up the white line relationship between Bright and Sayla. When she gets the communication from Federation HQ and takes the printout from the computer, you can see how unhappy she is the moment Bright takes it from her to read it. Despite Bright being second in command at the moment and obviously needing to know what it says more than she does, just follows her displeasure in talking to him in the first couple of episodes as well. I don't anticipate this developing into a friendship at any point.
Yeah.
Sorry, you do a lot of face emoting, but you don't give me a lot of talking back.
Yeah, well, Theta rule.
Well, no, I mean, I understand. When I say at any point, I mean, like, in coming episodes. Obviously, I understand that there's hundreds of years of Universal Century history to go through. It would be crazy for me to... It'd be like one of those speedrunners who gets, like, 2 seconds off the world record and says, no one will ever beat this, we should stop speedrunning. Like, I'm watching Summoning Salt videos, and it's like half an hour into an hour video, and the guy beats the record and says, no one will ever beat this, we can stop right now. It's like, well, I don't think the half an hour to come is just nothing, so... Amuro's point that they are just a distraction so the Federation can build new weapons might be true in a sense that the Federation is obviously building weapons to continue the war, but it would seem Reed's willingness to abandon White Base so that they could escape from Zeon territory implies that there is no real plan to use it as a distraction. I feel like that's just another sign of Amuro's building paranoia and PTSD.
Yeah, I mean, also remember that the Gundam, all of them, but particularly the Gundam, it's the mobile suit that they have, right? They don't have other mobile suits as far as we know.
Well, they do.
So,
they have 3 of them.
No, but they're all on White Base, right?
Yeah, what do you mean? They have
Federation
3
doesn't
mobile
have
suits.
Yeah, they don't have anything else. They're all on white base.
Oh, you mean the
These are the
Federation?
prototype.
I thought you meant
Federation.
white base. Sorry,
No.
I'm from the point of view of sorry. Sometimes my mind goes to Seed, where like Zaft has a bunch of mobile suits, and the Earth Alliance doesn't have anything other than the one that they have through the beginning of the show. And
Yeah.
so I thought you were talking about white base only has that, and I was like, no, they also got the gun tank and the gun cannon.
No, but that's the thing. These are the prototype gun. Although yes, Origins shows that they
Yeah, I would say the
kinda do
Iron
have MOBAs.
Cavalry. Did they ever not mass produce that, or have any remains of the Iron Cavalry?
Yeah.
Whatever
so
models those were, I can't remember.
so that's one of the reasons why contradictions are like, oh, but wait a minute. That's the reason why the Gundam is so important, not only because it's so powerful, but because it is the premier mobile suit. They keep calling me the Federation mobile suit, right? That's why they want to destroy it. They don't want. One of the things about the Gundam is if it goes back into lines, can be reproduced, then the Federation will have an army of good mobile suits, which are either equal or better than whatever the current standard is for.
I apparently don't
what-
have a thought written about it, but I know I talked about it when I was doing the transcript from the episode that also came from. The idea that the reason why maybe we don't see a bunch of Federation Space Forces or something is maybe they're back at Side 7. Because conceivably they built the Gundam there. So even though they destroyed like the parts and shit for it with, super napalm, that like the machinery might still be there, or there might be still just records and everything. So Zeon might be there trying to get that information, and the Earth Federation might have ships there trying to defend against it. We don't really know what happens at Side 7 after they leave.
Yeah. And so the idea being, hey, we have to get these two Federation space, and also remember that the white base is also a prototype, a unique battleship as well. So I think it's more showing that the Federation is still in a state of flux, and
there's a difference between the two fields of thought. Zeon wants to capture both at highest cost, Operation V. The Earth Federation just considers it, as far as we can tell so far, another battle-worthy thing that they have. Reed was like, we can fucking bail on this if we have to. They're not Zeon is holding White Base in higher regard than the people sent to control White Base.
Oh, because for Zeon, if the Federation does get these mobile suits, then the one real advantage that Zeon has, which is their mobile suits, would either be canceled or disappear, right?
Well, I mean, that applies to White Base as well. That's why they want it. Yeah. I think they want to reproduce it because it's better than their shit. The Gundam can take their cannon blows, which blows everything out. That was the victory over Iron Cavalry, is that we can take shots from their shit. They cannot take shots from our shit. And then here comes the Gundam reversing the flow again. We can't take shots from it, but they can't take shots from us. We need that tech.
Yep.
But again, that also plays the a note that I had from before that I didn't transfer over, is the lower tier of Zeon technology. Like when they build a gun for the Gundam, they build a ship cannon and then miniaturize it down into this blaster type of thing. So it's firing high-tech laser weapons, essentially, on a Gundam. Versus Zeon, they miniature it, or I guess they expanded, actually, technically, like a tank cannon, and it made it better.
And a machine gun, basically.
Yeah, they made a tank cannon into a machine gun, which is they took an old technology and made it better, versus the Federation, or I guess TEM, took an existing technology and made it better. So, Zeon is a tech level behind the Federation's prototype weapon, and the Zeon doesn't have an equivalent. So they're an older generation fighting force, essentially, even though they were the cutting edge at the time.
So in order to maintain their advantage, they have to eliminate, or better yet, capture it and take it for their own, so they can reproduce it, right?
Right, which is the thought process of what might be going on at Side 7, Noah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate Bright's stance on philosophy. There's a time for doing and a time for thinking, and a lot of anime characters get the order of things all wrong. Sulking and throwing a hissy fit in a war zone is sure to get you killed. There was a whole middle part here talking about 86, where you haven't watched it, so I had to cut that part out. Survive the encounter first, then worry about living a good life. I know all this is just adding to his PTSD, and I'm no therapist. But having PTSD at least still means you're alive. Sulking and doing nothing is just a good way to wind up dead, and yet it's the only the mention of Char that gets Amuro out of his funk and not wanting to pilot the Gundam, and effectively wanting to try new forms of combat.
Yeah. But also we have to remember that for all that, Amuro is still a teenager, right?
Don't care.
He's a child soldier. It's a child soldier. And
Don't
I think
care.
that's the narrative does.
Now, I don't think the narrative does, though. Because it does throw out he cares more about his rivalry with Char than his own PTSD.
But I think it's framing in like, yeah, this is bad for him. This is not great, and he's struggling with it. And he does not have, in any other situation, he would have a more experienced leader might have been able to get him to fight. Because remember that right now I like the character enough, but he's also a kid. He's a cadet, right? He's an officer's cadet. So he's like 20 the most, 19.
Bright has no politics. You get a bunch of rights and a bunch of lefts.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's and yeah, I think that
I'm just saying I don't give a shit about how whiny, sulky, and PTSD written you are. If the alternative is death, I mean, if you're going suicidal, then I guess indicate more towards suicidal, because that's the only way that I'm going to accept that you're not going to fight for your own survival. I understand there's also the fear motivation. What is it? You fight, you run away, or you shut down. And Amuro isn't positioning himself as though he's shutting down, and that he's actively fighting to not fight, which is a different response. I guess that's more fear response than it is shutting down. As we said during the episode, it's a Shinji moment. Shinji, get in the goddamn mech. In which case, I think everybody agrees, Shinji is just fucking annoying. I don't want Amuro to be annoying. I want Amuro to be somebody you root for, right? Do you not want to root for Amuro?
Yeah, but I also want to, make sure he's all right.
Yeah, well, you know what we do? Let's get to, I'm assuming, Venezuela, that's right. Sorry, Seed, it's Alaska. I was about to say Alaska again. Get to Venezuela, Jabaro, or whatever it's called, and then put him through all the therapy he ever needs. He just has to get there. But till he gets there, he has to do what's necessary to make sure he gets there. Unless he decides he doesn't want to live, in which case, fuck it, jump out of white base. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's hard to root for a guy who doesn't want to live. And that's what I'm getting from Amuro in the I don't want to fight. Well, nobody else can fight, Amuro. You're the one who studied this for a year and a half before it was ever discovered by us, the civilians. You have all the knowledge. You read the manual, even. If one of us gets in there, we're gonna kill ourselves, probably. So...
yeah.
I think I too thought, what the hell did I write here? I think I two thoughts there. Perfect. Must have been a 2 a.m. edit. There and that's, I think, God, what the hell? I'm gonna just delete this. This must have been... Sorry. The whole, you know how there's a whole conversation about AI scraping YouTube videos? Right?
Yeah.
Well, a bunch of the things I would use to get transcriptions of my own videos are now being blocked from that. So I have to use these like janky ass things to get my own transcriptions of my own videos, which kind of are not great. So I think that was just one of those little middle bits that I forgot to delete. I'm basically reading out me and Griffin both talking at once, which sounded weird. Once again, Char doesn't make plans to take out Garma. He rolls with the situation to do what he can in the moment. He actively advises Garma not to go out in the attack, but when Garma does, he uses everyone's knowledge of the youngest zombie son's pride to reinforce the radio silence his sabotage has created. One assumes that having been in many battles already with the Gundam and White Base, that he knows it's a situation Garma has no chance in compared to his own skills.
I mean, literally, Char is the only one who has survived so far direct combat with the Gundam, and that's because he's the Red Comet, right?
Well, Garma has to.
Oh, yeah, but he nearly got taken out. I mean, his fighter really got wrecked.
Technically, Char was flying away in just a spacesuit, being fired at by the Gundam's, beam cannon.
But he didn't. Well, yeah, but in that situation, he didn't fight the Gundam and run away. He just was doing sabotage.
Well, he was just actually he didn't fight the Gundam and run away. He was just running away. So I'm just saying that Char has kind of survived on luck as well. The same thing of Garma flying away from the Gundam in his like half wrecked little plane, whatever they're called.
Yeah, fighter plane.
Yeah, he's just as much of a surviving the Gundam because it was literally Superman jumping after him as anything Char has done. Char just displays his skills while he's doing it. But I think I had a note from last time about the pilot or the Zaku pilot who like throws his gun away and tries to run away from the Gundam and still gets his ass killed. Garma got away where other pilots don't. It's quite the blow that the first zombie to be taken down by Char's wrath is also the only one willing to leave Zeon for the woman he loves. He just couldn't leave well enough alone and had to give it one more shot at taking out White Base and the Gundam. Though I'm not sure Char would have let Garma get away with just leaving it all behind him, knowing what sort of psychopath Char really is deep down. I at least appreciate that Char acknowledges that Garma was a good friend to him, but that his revenge on his father means more.
Technically on his brother, but he doesn't care. They're zombies and they need to die.
I'm pretty sure he blames Degwin chief amongst them.
Yeah.
Because Degwin was the one who got his father killed, essentially. And that kind of I think at this point I was having a conversation more about Jimba is the root cause of all of this. Remember that previous discussion I had about alternate realities where Jimba dies early and things happen completely different? Jimba is the one who's giving like this propaganda speech to Edward as a young man, like every day, about how the zombies are to blame for everything. I mean, obviously we know from previous, like when he's in the gun tank, that he's already blaming the zombies. But Jimba is just like instilling it more and more. I think it's just a heavy tone that you could bring to Jimba, as Jimba has been unhelpful. He institutes the whole plan to get revenge against the zombies, where he talks to Anaheim early on. He educates Edward on who's to blame for his father's death. He is a linchpin in the very beginning of Edward's life.
And the reason why the castle was attacked and his stepfather, adopted father, they didn't get killed, but got severely injured, and they were forced out once again to leave.
Yeah. So in the scheme of things, Degwin is the antagonist, but Jimba is the motivator of a bunch of the activities.
I mean, I think in many ways, Char is doing Gimba's will beyond the grave, right? Although I think also even before that, he certainly knew that the zombies. I mean, he was the one who told the zombies assassinated his father, and also when he had the confrontation with Cassilia, he realized where the power was at that moment, right? So,
I mean, he certainly does now. He's part of that military again. I think the fact that Revel considers White Base to be a fully operational combat unit, and that he intentionally only evacuated the injured, he must believe that anyone on board that was once a civilian that has fought in their own defense has now been pressed into military service. It's funny because I think we argued about this last episode, so it's funny to think that past me thought the same way you did. At the very least, I wouldn't be surprised to find out as much. When Bright tells Amuro there are still some civilians on board to protect, and Amuro says to himself that he is a civilian, I think that's the clue. If Bright, the person highest in the chain of command on board, but also closest to the situation, considers Amuro part of the crew, there's little doubt in my mind that even higher ups, distant authority, likely thinks the same way, especially if they're already child soldiers on the front lines, as was mentioned before. I think the analogy I gave in the past was basically branch stores. Like if you're working at, say, a Blockbuster, but your district command Blockbuster is a horrible example, but it probably works back when this came out. You're working at a Blockbuster and your regional Blockbuster is sending out orders. They're making things based on what's working in their eyes, but they're not considering local matters, right?
Yeah.
Same sort of thing.
And also for I think the civilians is like, oh, you didn't volunteer, you're getting voluntold. You're getting drafted, essentially.
Well, again, the difference being between the civilians that worked in their own self-defense, i.e. the ones that operated military hardware, versus the civilians that just sat around wanting to get off the ship.
Yeah. I mean, you become a combatant either way, so.
Right, but one is a legal combatant and one is an illegal combatant. They do the same thing in Seed, where they actually actively give everybody their papers to say that while you were operating aboard the ship, you were actively a member of the military. But the papers also to denote, hey, you can get off the ship now, we're discharging you. So sort of we recognize what you've done, but to make it legal, we're discharging you now as though you were actually part of the military while you were serving aboard the ship, even though you were technically civilians at the time. Obviously, since one show is based on the other, they kind of considered that as a thing that would make more sense. Because it's illegal for a civilian to be a combatant in a war zone.
So I guess they haven't had a chance to legally. I guess when what's in her name came aboard, Matilda came aboard, she could have said, "Oh, by the way, here are your papers. You're all being drafted." The end.
If they had been considering that was something that she should have done. The fact that she says, "Here's what the higher ups are considering you as," implies that higher ups are thinking about them, but they don't give a shit, which leans into Amuro's. They're just using us. The first time around, when I saw last episode, I questioned what Icelina was going to do if she got in the plane. But I also have to think that her presence in the area might have distracted Garma enough that he might not have died either. Either he turns around to protect her from crossfire, or doesn't fall for Char's trick for being distracted by her radio communications. Hell, maybe she would have died instead of him there. There would have been so many more variables to the situation either way. We can certainly put some of the blame on her abusive and anti-Zeon father towards Garma's death, I think. Sorry, it's one of my changed comments. Me and Griffin had a debate about that last time, and I just say, last time when I saw the episode, instead of bringing up me and Griffin's debate. Because I think, obviously, Garma cares about Icelina, so if she was put in danger, he might have aborted the mission. Yep. Especially considering he was willing to give up everything to be with her originally. He certainly wouldn't want her to die. And thus, that would ruin Char's entire gambit. Despite all that rich boy shit Char says and the pampered upbringing we saw him have, Garma post-Dawn Rebellion was a consummate Xeon soldier. He didn't want his promotions to be due to nepotism. He demanded to earn them via work, and we saw him on the ground on one of the sides as well as on Earth in the danger zones earning his place. When White Base opened fire on him from behind, he didn't try to run and save himself. He ordered the Gaw to turn around a full 180 so that he could ram it, since they could no longer pull up.
Also, it's kind of rich for Char to say that, because in many ways, yes, while the tragedies of his life are due to the fact of his birth and his high position, but he ended up in a castle in Spain in one time, in a resort place in another, was able to finagle his way, by killing someone else, but still into the academy, right? So had his father not died, he would have been what's his name? God damn it, I forgot. We just talked about him. I forgot his name. He would have been,
Garma?
Garma. Yeah, he would have been Garma. So, it's like, oh, you're a spoiled rich kid. Well, I was vacationing in a Spanish castle on Earth. He never went to when he was alone, yeah, he worked and that
then
kind of.
I lived in a theme park.
Yeah, it's like.
Well, I mean, Char or Edward or Casval, whatever you want to call him, obviously never wanted to be in those places. He was always upset to be there. He had the feel of a rich kid that wanted you to know how bad their life was.
Yeah.
Versus even Garma was kind of living in it.
Yeah, even when they were exiled to a tower, right? They were not thrown in prison, something like that. I mean, it wasn't great.
Their mother was exiled to the tower. Remember, the Rose Lucia wanted the kids to stay with her in the building.
Yeah.
Because the tower is cold and lonely, and it's not a place for kids. We're punishing you, not the kids.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, right? That even then, everybody around them, outside of mostly Cassilia, and even then, she kind of spared their lives. Like, oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, fine, whatever. As long as you're not. The irony is that for Char, if Char had not really presented, well, not Casval, we'll really talk about Casval here, presented a real threat or appearance threat to the Sabis, he could have even joined them. He could have like, oh yeah, hey, remember the children of our old, the people the person we literally named our nation after, he's alive and he's joined the Sabi family. Look, generation of the store and all that, but it didn't go that way, right? I mean, Garma could say, hey, my brother got blown up by my sister. My life was constantly in danger from my own family members.
Knows.
Yeah, but the fact that you saw
knows, I think. Degwin, I think, knows.
The fact that you see the car in front of you that your elder brother is in blown to pieces, and every time you see the face of your older brother, it's cut up because of the injuries he suffered in that incident, means that Garma's life wasn't as charmed and spoiled.
I don't know. He was spoiled by Degwin. Because remember, Degwin's like, I don't want you to live this life. I kind of wish I had. Yeah. You would have that different life. And then again, I don't know. I have that heavy Degwin was a pedophile argument. I have made a lot more in the previous ones than this one. But look, I didn't bring it up before, but in Origin, there's that kid that Degwin leaves the bridge of his capital ship with. He's like wearing a full like white uniform, but he's very clearly a kid of Garma's age that he like puts his hand on and has him walk him off bridge. And it's like, Degwin's got a type. And the way that Dozel's afraid of him, it doesn't seem like my dad beats me fear. It's oh no, he's standing up. I'm just saying, yeah. Look, I don't see how
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm being obvious with that. I'm just saying you're not afraid to paint him as a fascist, but if I paint the horrible fascist as a pedophile. That's the step too far.
Well, both.
Look, I'm just saying, I think one's actually worse than the other. Fascist, you have to blame a lot of people for. You don't, a fascist alone in a basement somewhere, who fucking cares? A pedophile alone in the basement, well, alone in the basement's maybe not a problem, but I don't know. A lone pedophile is a bigger problem in my eyes than a lone fascist.
The fact that he has access to a basement in each case is just bad.
Yeah, with a giant face, because that's what we do in Munzo. Anyway, final thought here. White Base has said that they were so low on ammo that they wouldn't have enough to get through another battle. They said that in the middle of a battle. They then had to go all out against Garma's Gaw. I have to imagine that the next fight we see them in, that they will have a shortage that will affect them, or they will have to scrounge for ammo, unless they get right to the Federation space, that is.
I mean, they did get resupplied.
No, they didn't.
So,
they got evacuated.
No. They were resupplying as well.
No,
like, literally,
they didn't.
No.
Okay, wait. Lessons, wait. This is a break in the Theta rule. They get resupplied later. I know that Matilda comes back and resupplies them later. She didn't resupply them this time. I want to say within the next 3 episodes, Matilda comes back and resupplies them.
I know, but in that first visit, we see that she's taking some people out, and then you see these boxes come in of supplies.
I'm pretty sure that's really not right. Here's the thing is, again, you're saying this, but again, I had to go back and rewatch the whole thing. So, here's the problem is I'm also never 100% certain about anything I say. So,
it could be that they just give him food and then give him ammo. That could be it, but they were getting some supplies. Those big-ass boxes they were shoving into the ship. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that's true. Again, because I know that she comes back.
Oh,
I really wish I hadn't said that, by the way. I shouldn't be breaking my own Theta rule. I should probably just let you win, even when I think you're wrong, if it invokes a Theta rule. I gotta be solid on it. Can't make a rule and then break it myself. That's not right. All right, well, any other thoughts you want to throw out there before we get into episode 11?
Nope.
All right, well, I guess we just go ahead and get on into it.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this,
unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
$1979. Technically 5 years before I was born. Well, I know there's a lot of shit that came out in 84, year I was born, that Apple computer. A lot of great movies. I think Back to the Future was 84.
The Mac. The Apple was already out. It was a Macintosh.
I'm pretty sure it was the Apple.
Nope, the Apple one came out in 1978, I think. Yeah. Or even earlier, I think.
I'm not certain. The most I have connection to like Apple computers is that movie Silicon Valley? Silicon Valley?
Pirates of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that TNT movie was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Now the Macintosh. Again, I don't know much about Apple. I never even owned an Apple computer. I think my cousin as a kid had one, which was really disappointing when I would spend days over their house because, Apples back then weren't known for their gaming. So.
Yeah, I owned a Commodore 64, so.
I owned a Commodore 64. Remember, we had a debate before about what they were able to have game-wise.
A lot of games.
Yeah, well, you were saying that they had full visual things on there, and I'm like, no, because I ran tank on my computer, and that was the highest it was able to do. Couldn't get a.
We didn't see the flying, the bird. This time the bird was like, yeah, we killed that bird so many times. We don't need to see her heads anymore.
To be fair, the thing that they're rehashing the most is Operation British, which is the fucking biggest thing in human history to have ever have happened. So I don't behoove them for showing it constantly.
Icelina.
Well, you and I say the name differently.
No, that's how they say it. They say it, Icelina. And I said Icelina.
You and the show say it differently than I do then. Does that make you feel better?
No, I was saying Icelina.
I wasn't saying you say it wrong. I'm just saying you and I say it differently.
How do you say it?
Icelina. You're putting like a weird thing in the middle. Icelina is, I think, what I'm hearing you say, and I'm saying Icelina without the.
Oh, okay.
You're putting it. Sorry, I said weird thing. Emphasis. You're putting an emphasis, like how you do with like umlauts and other very specific pronunciations.
30 kilometers long. Those are gigantic. Yeah, well, I mean, they have millions of people in them, so yeah.
I think the problem is also that I hear a name once or I say it a couple of times and it's just in my head that way, so I do it for like all the other shows we watch on the channel people make fun of me for. It's just that's how I learned it now. Like when you read a word before you've ever heard a word.
Yep. He looks much older than
I was just
Origins,
thinking that.
he's not.
He's got like gray hair almost.
Which
20
could
something
be,
years old.
Yeah. The stress of combat. I mean, he is a leader of the fleet. Let's go to the clearly not evil palace.
ガルマの死を無駄にするわけには参りません。ザビ家末代の沽券に関わります。ギレン、わしはただガルマの死を。恐れながら、ドズルザビ様、キシリアザビ様、ただいま前線よりご到着でございます。どうせ。父上。早かったな、二人とも。父上、さぞ。
残念です。あのガルマが連邦軍のモビルスーツの前に倒れたと。
兄貴、俺はまだ信じられん。今にもあいつが顔を出すんじゃないかと。過去を思いやっても。
It'd probably be creepier if he did show up.
しかし、あやつこそ俺さえも使いこなしてくれる将軍にもなろうと楽しみにもしておった。
Well, technically, you could have actually made him a general at any time.
I mean, I think he respected the fact that
He
that
didn't
wanted
want to,
go
yeah. But, you know, military
Yeah.
tradition, double promotion after death. Sorry, those moments of animation where you think, did my player freeze?
Oh, that is so 70s. The decor and everything, the color, the color palette, it's so 70s.
イセリナ様。先日のパーティーでも遠くからお姿を拝見いたしました。
The best time to take your shot is when the husband dies or the fiance.
Yeah.
Groom, whatever.
ここがガルマ様のお使いになったお部屋でございます。
How can you tell?
I don't know.
We're both playing for the same joke here, but I thought it was coming a lot quicker than it was. There we go.
Yeah.
How could you tell?
I mean, Garma clearly did not think much of himself. He has a ground level picture that's bigger than a human being of his face. I know it's supposed to be a heartfelt moment, but still, it's.
I don't know. I totally feel for Icelina. It is.
Yeah.
Her story is not a. Sorry, when I say a great one, that implies that it's not a good story. I mean, it's not great emotionally.
ダロタ注意。
I mean, she has a great force of will. I'll give her that much, right?
Well,
she
it
wasn't
doesn't hurt
just.
that the guy who's reporting to her is a simp.
Yeah.
わしら気が短い。着地と同時に一番乗りで。
強力な乱気流です。
It sounded like an explosion, but yeah, sure. Let's go with turbulence.
エアポケットかな。
乱気流に入りました。少しの間入れますが大丈夫です。
わかったかい。
はい、安全弁が内蔵されていてジャベリンにならなかったんです。
おお、お前どっちかっていうと技術者向きなんだな。
そうですか。
My father was an engineer before me. Like my father before me. The man I murdered. But I didn't, but you know.
そりゃそうでしょ。同じものですから。
Accidentally. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Second degree murder in this case.
ガンダムの整備は終わっているか。おう、いつでもいい。
エンジンの調子良くないのよ。ブライト、不時着でもしたら。
連邦軍の制空圏内まであと一息なんだ。救援隊が来てくれるかもしれない。
ブライトさん、ホワイトベースだけでも連邦軍の制空圏内へ脱出してください。
I don't think you should probably be using lines on a map to determine safe places to land. I mean, unless those lines are like the flight distance of your, planes in your command.
アムロ、一気にあそこまでジャンプするぞ。できるか。
やってみます。
来たぞ。目標をモビルスーツに絞れ。
モビルスーツ、あれがガルマ様を。
なんとしてもガルマ大佐の恨みを晴らしてご覧に入れますよ、イセリナ様。
I mean, that's the problem is, I feel like even if they tried to ram the mobile suit with a Goth, the mobile suit would just tear through it.
ジムさん、近いからすごい威力があるぞ。
音さえ壊しちまえば。
I'm sorry, the gun cannon was made for Rule 34 because the best thing it does is get on its knees. That's just true. That joke works because it's true. This is the flaw of using carriers without fighter jets. Oh, the Gauss do it too. Great.
We live in a universe of everything made out of explodium.
残念ながらこの数回の戦いで実戦に出られるのは。
Turns out the Xeon forces were all from the antimatter universe.
こちらシャアだ。手を貸すぞ。
シャー少佐、私です。ガルマ大佐直属のダロタ注意です。
誰でもいい。コックピットを狙え。
コックピットですか。
腹だ。ガンダムは腹が心臓だ。
わかりました。
私は木馬を攻撃する。そこをついて一気に蹴りをつけるんだ。
Another flaw in the battle strategy is that they never
ドズル中将への忠誠。どう取られても損はないからな。
like to all target the same thing.
なんだと。
God damn it, Bray.
連絡会議で揉めている。
援軍は望めそうもありませんね。マチルダのミデアをよこしたことも問題になってるくらいだから。
なぜだ。我々がどうなってもいいというのか。
まだ伝聞はありますよ。
避難民収容の準備あり。S109、N23 ポイントへ向かわれたし。未来、進路 1.5 度変身だ。
はい。
敵機です。10時の方向。
Also, the oddity of most of the weaponry on the white base is just manned from the outside.
あ、安全装置が。
I
Now this, he used he literally bombed a flying target, which is
I mean, not really all that different from bombing a ship at sea. It's
Yeah,
all,
but both of them are flying, so it would be a difficulty hit.
well, it's
with a
just
bomb.
you know, difference in speed. No different from bombing Womp Rats back at. Look, if Luke can do it, Char can do it. Except using the Force, I guess. Oh, opportunity. I know what new types are, by the way. Justin's not here. Theta Rule doesn't say anything about new types.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what new types are, actually. I'm familiar with the concept of new types. All that shit before about the flashing lights around Char when things happen, new type shit.
Yeah.
I've even suggested that there's been times when the lights have gone off around Amuro, and I thought, is that indicating that Amuro is a new type? Would not bring it up. The show has never mentioned new types before. Justin Rule is in effect.
Yep.
Before, Griff and I even read commentary during Witch from Mercury that mentioned cyber new types. I don't have any idea what the fuck those are.
Mm.
Don't worry, I'll take White Base alone with a handgun.
It hasn't been easy so far, so I don't think you're gonna find an easy way.
Yeah, based on what is my...
Yeah. Oh, it should be an easy now that they're in the ground.
They kicked
I
my
have this
ass
gun.
when I tried this in Zero Gravity back on Luna 2, but now that we're on the ground...
Yeah. And I have this handy gun. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna give it a try.
in my 6-foot-long leg reach.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a barrel roll would help right about now or something. Or a corkscrew, I guess.
大丈夫ですかああ一応な一旦父親寄りを了解
It's not like you have a choice. Where are you gonna go?
Yeah, they seem to have, like, jump jets.
Yeah,
They
but
can't exactly fly, but they can, you know, not fall exactly either.
これでかなりの無理は効くはずです
よしパワーセクションいけるな
はい 25% の出力源ですがなんとか大丈夫です
Hi.
こっちはオッケー異常はないわ
Sorry, I know him because I had to delete him from the board when I was moving it.
よしあとはここから急いで脱出だ今敵の攻撃を受けたら身動きできない
アムロリュウと連絡を取りましょうか
まだ緊急連絡は受けてないか
ええまだ異常事態もキャッチしていませんブライト避難民の何人かが勝手に船の外に出ました
何
God, it's like they all had a sit-in or something telling you exactly how much they wanted to leave the ship.
よせやめるんだ戻って
こんなとこで降りたって危険なだけですよ
おやめなさい
戻りなさい危険です敵が近くにいるかもしれません早く戻るんだ
Imagine the gambler's mentality, by the way. Man, we should have left when there was like a lake and greenery. Ah, fuck, it's a desert. Could be worse.
早く降ろしてくれこんな砂漠に降りてどうするつもりです
you know, Char was a moron. You know why? Because if he sees these people, he should get, and they see they're civilians. Or maybe he didn't see it because of the sandstorm, right? He let them approach, captures them, and has, you know, hostages to bargain with. But he just shot the guy. It's like, whatever. I don't care.
I mean, my argument was more about the evil of Char to shoot civilians, but I think it's more that, to your point, I think it's more that he got made and reacted impulsively. Almost like he's an opportunistic guy with no plans. I thought you were going to say he was dumb because he could see bright in the doorway and he didn't shoot a military officer instead of civilians.
And he knows that they have civilians on board as well, because they did that trade before because of the civilians.
Cecilia, your hairstyle gets it worse and worse.
And here's Garen. Now Garen here is like, he's done the Squidward change. Like he was thinner in Origins and early in the episode, and now he's done the full face, like,
it's getting older.
Yeah, but the way they animated him was like, he's like, you know, the handsome Squidward face.
And this is why you need that air cover. I guess this does kind of imply my note about the Gaw taking out White Base probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Because they're getting hit with all of that weaponry and it's not doing anything but almost melting a shield. At the very least, I know that these guys parachuting out wouldn't have meant anything, considering they're caught in a blast zone. Pilot with your other arm? At least it does imply that if Garma had rammed it, it probably would have done something. The irony of the Gaw not exploding because Icelina is too important of a character. Because otherwise, I think that probably would have taken out the Gundam. I mean, I put my money on her. She's got motive, size,
and a gun. How close is she? No.
Far enough away that he shouldn't have been able to hear her, but I mean, that takes away from the impact of the scene. I think the impact of the scene is worth getting over that.
Did she sleep, or I guess she slipped? That's what and broke her neck.
Mary Janed it.
Yeah.
My original interpretation was that she slipped, but I think she was actually injured in the crash because Taruta dies from the crash.
Yeah.
So I think she just survived long enough. and then succumbed to her injuries. It's also a kinder thing to kind of think, because then she would have died before she hit the ground and didn't have to go through that. Ah, Dren. My boy Dren. I mean, I'm not... It's always a little bit happier to see Dren on screen.
He's like, are you shitting me, boss? I'm not going to say that because it's going to cost my life, but
no,
sure.
That's not what I saw in his face. It was more like a big ups. He's like, I'm happy with what we're doing. That's why Dren is the man when it comes to side characters. Dren's just for it.
Yeah, I don't know. He looked at me like, okay, I ain't gonna say no, but
yeah, you're seeing an uncomfortableness in his face that I'm just seeing like smirk. Like one of those evil bad guy smirks. Dren's just happy to be a part of it.
You said that she's an important character, but she ends up being buried in a shallow grave in the desert.
She's an important character because the emotional a bit of the scene.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I meant when I said that.
Yeah. But it's how she ends up anyway, right? Like, oh, for us, she's an important character because we spent last episode and this episode with her. But for the narrative, ironically enough, as far as these guys are concerned, she's just somebody who showed up with a gun and tried to kill Amuro and failed. And they gave her a burial. So her father probably would never find her because they're in the middle of a desert, right?
Sorry, I'm not laughing right now. I'll explain in a second.
I mean, I'm saying the contrast.
Great cosmic power. Sorry.
the contrast there, right? She's supposed to. Ramba Ral. Ready to Ramba. Yeah, that's how it goes, of course.
No, not to cut you off there, even though you didn't stop talking anyway. We don't tend to talk over the next time on, so I just gotta try to let it play out. That's why I was like trying to explain my thought process, and then I stopped for the next time on, and then tried to stop you. No. Sorry, I was explaining, I wasn't laughing or anything because of that. I was laughing because we're talking about how important of a character she is to us, but the show is trying to imply that she's nobody in the grand scheme of the war. And then we're saying she's important to us, and then it occurred to me, we completely are talking over her entire grave scene. So, as I've said many times before, if we're talking, it's not being shown on the YouTube side. So, we've stated that she's important to us, and my thought process is that we include in the character ranking the emotional resonance as a ranking, because that's how important that is to me, at least. And then completely talked over the only funeral she's going to get.
But what I was trying to say, it was at the contrast, right? And that's pretty good writing, right? She's the daughter of an important person on Earth. She was engaged unofficially to Garma, right? She comes into this to avenge him, right?
I mean, they certainly were going to elope, if anything else.
Yeah. Confronts Amuro with it, like, oh, I'm gonna get my vengeance. Amuro's like, what vengeance? Because this is the first time really that, and it's a little bit of Theta rule in the sense that this is the first time that we see Amuro confront somebody from the other side face to face.
Well, this is one of those, the other guys are having a story that the main character doesn't know anything about. So, I'm gonna get vengeance. She doesn't know he doesn't know Garma's dead. He doesn't know who Garma is, probably. I mean, possible Garma's shown up on the news before as a zombie member or whatever, but he didn't know what the hell's going on. So, somebody showing up to get vengeance for Garma, shocking to him, but the idea is still, how many people has Amuro killed so far anyway? So, the idea shouldn't be foreign to him that somebody might, take it a bit personally, even though it's a bit in a war situation, that he's killed anybody.
But remember also when we were talking earlier about Char escaping in a suit. One of the problems that, and Amuro says so, right? Oh, shooting people that I can see as people is a problem for me. But destroying a machine, even though I know there's somebody in it, I can do.
But
right?
you mean like it's a matter of consideration that he has considered the people he's killed because he's really trying hard not to? Again, though, this goes to why I typically side with the antagonists of these shows, because the antagonists don't tend to be main characters. So anything could happen to them, and I'm more invested in the characters that anything could happen to, because, main characters have plot armor syndrome and things like that. It makes them less interesting to know that even though they might not accomplish their goals, they're still going to survive just about any fight that they're in, except for, obviously the big shocking deaths. But bad guys, especially bad guys that have, like, love affairs and, goals, dreams, etc., they can fucking die any minute, any second. That makes them a lot more interesting that I don't know how their story's going to end up. That's why I'm always on the bad guy side, not because the bad guys are morally right or I agree with anything they say. I just don't know how their story is going to end up. I can always guess the hero's going to win or get away or whatever. But Icelina? Who the fuck knows? She's making an end run. I'm obviously going to assume she's going to die. But, getting out on the front of the thing, pointing a gun at Amuro, is she going to shoot him? What's going to happen here? Falling off the thing? I didn't anticipate that. So, it makes them infinitely more interesting characters.
Yeah.
And of course, she has that emotional resonance angle as well. That she's trying to get vengeance for the man that she fell in love with. That she's being abused by her father for even being in love with. Right? I remember really enjoying this the first time I saw it. Because it was a emotionally resonant episode. Sorry, my brain is escaping me. I'm trying how to describe this. Well, it's like when we keep having to talk about why are you laughing when, Frau's family dies and everyone's around it. Well, in the moment, we're trying to enjoy ourselves, and it's easier to enjoy yourself with humor. It's not taking away from how horrible an action it is to see a loved one try to inflict vengeance on the killer or perceived killer. How does she even know who killed him? I guess Char said something.
Well, he knows that he said that he needed to capture White Base and the Gundam, right? The mobile suits.
Right. But
So
it
she
seems
just-
like she was personally blaming Amuro.
I mean, probably, I guess because, and this is where the Gundam and Amuro, but particularly Gundam as a symbol of the Federation, stands in. Like, she can't kill him. She gets a measure of vengeance. Because that's one of the things about vengeance.
That's
Vengeance
all the weird
appears to-
thing. The weird thing there is that she'd be shooting a kid
Yeah.
as a symbol of vengeance. Also, it just occurred to me, Amuro had nothing to do with it. White Base shot Garma down.
That's kind of the nature
I'm
of
gonna get
vengeance.
vengeance on everybody by shooting this child.
Yeah, that's kind of the nature of vengeance. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just suddenly weird now. You think about it. That if she was successful, she would have shot a kid dead. To be fair, he's got no family that we know about. It's like, find me a child with no family. I have a sacrifice to make.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a very emotional episode. I feel more emotional about Icelina than I do Garma.
I mean, yeah.
It's just kind of weird. I'm proud of Garma because of the way he dies. He dies like a man. He fucking, turned the plane around. We'll ram it down their goddamn throats, and it gives the whole Sieg Sion line. It's like, how many Zaku pilots have we seen screaming for help in their moment of death? And Garma, the one that we paint, is like this pampered rich kid, who actually cares about his soldiers. We saw that on the flagship in Origin. Just fucking goes down like a man. So
I
proud
think
of Garma. Icelina is just a little bit heartbreaking.
For whatever Char says, Garma did have leadership abilities.
Yeah, because he got pushed into it.
But he got pushed into a situation and he demonstrated his abilities. He didn't fail. Like when he's giving that speech in Origins to his soldiers, it's like he's afraid, but he overcomes. It's like, no, we're gonna do this. And he's the one who gives the inspirational words that gets everybody going. Without that, Char's plan would have fallen apart because he would have backup.
Yeah, no. When I say he got pushed into it, I didn't mean like that as a negative. I meant that as he's not like Giran who plans for a thing to happen, then has a speech ready for it. as we see at like the academy and whatnot, where he seems to just be practicing fucking speeches. But Dharma is thrust into a scenario, and like you see like the nervousness and the fake energy, not the fake energy, he's riddled with anxiety, but he gives a speech, follow me, you know, and then he gets through it. He is a leader in a scenario, a situation that he was unprepared for, versus the other people, which seem to be orchestrating situations that they can make themselves the leaders of.
I like Garm overall, right? And also I don't blame him. He also the fact that he's kind of blameless for anything that happened, and even to his own death in a way, right? Because he wasn't part of the conspiracy to kill Zeon, you know, Char's dad. He was just a member, and literally Char says it's just you happen to be a Sabi, you happen to be a child of the people I hate, so you have to go, right? And it also highlights how Char is a villain, even though Origins paints him in a more or less sympathetic light. At the end of the day, he decided to kill people at not a mere whim, but at times kind of very flimsy justification. I cannot risk this guy telling my life. I'm gonna kill him. Oh, I'm gonna use this guy who looks like me to get into and survive. Sucks to be him, right? He's willing to do bad things to get what he wants.
I literally labeled him as a psychopath in the note section before this.
Yes, so yeah. Ironically,
sorry, I think I actually had a discussion about this before. I labeled him as a psychopath. What I should have said was sociopath.
I actually find difficult between the two of them, but anyway,
a psychopath can be like an irrational killer or something like that. A sociopath just doesn't understand human emotion. Doesn't have to be a killer.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a very clear definition of terms. Is insulting to some people, but they're like degrees.
So yeah, I think I like him, and which makes his death and then Icelina's death that much profound. Especially how she ends up ultimately being buried in the desert by people who didn't know who she was. Because if they know who she was, they would probably try to return her to her father, right? But it's just a girl.
I mean, yeah, because her dad was in support of basically the Earth Federation. So
yeah,
but her abusive dad, though. I mean,
they wouldn't have known that, right? Unless they knew that.
I also don't think they would have tried to return her to her father because they're heading like in a different direction.
At least give a call or something, a radio call or contact, or
I don't know, because they know that they're being monitored too. Remember, that's why they're not in direct conversation with their own leadership.
But even then, they didn't know who she was.
They probably would have done the same thing. I think, even if they knew who she was.
Or eventually, when they got somewhere where they could talk to people, it's like, yes, by the way, this happened. This person died. That's where we left him. You know.
I think the bigger implication is, hey, the guy with the masks wearing a red outfit shot a bunch of civilians. I know it's probably hard to report Zeon soldiers for war crimes because it's so constant, but put that on his file.
Yeah. Or at least he shot one person. We saw dead.
He still tried to shoot. Attempted murder with a couple of murders.
He killed one, and
I think he shot 3 of them, actually. You see one guy's silhouette go down, and like 2 other people's silhouettes go down before we pan out to Bright and the other guys running out to shoot at him.
Yeah, but I think it's more that the other guys took cover. Like,
no, they fall down like right in the open. So I'm pretty sure because it's in the same shot. He shoots like a couple of times, and 3 people go down. I think it's not important how many people he killed. It's the fact he killed any civilians at all.
And he probably doesn't give a damn.
Again, those might be the people who would recognize him, though. That might be why he killed them. They saw my face. Well, they saw my mask.
The moon football mask.
Yeah, whatever that fucking sport was called. Ruins that fucking mask.
Yeah.
It's where does Solo get his coat from, right? Like, didn't need that.
Yeah. You don't have to explain everything.
Well, I mean, I appreciate some of them. Like, what the fuck does the helmet come from? But that to make Make it better, not dumber. You know? Well, he wears the iconic goggles. I wonder what those are about. Football helmet. Like, what?
Yeah.
You don't have to write down your first thought, man. All right, final thought?
I really like this episode. I mean, to be perfectly honest, up to this point, all the episodes of Gundam have been bangers. I think maybe in retrospect, when we look at the entire series, we're like, okay, some of them were stronger than others, right? But and yes, I think the one weakness of the episode is that it's kind of melodramatic that she was even allowed on board the ship. It was like she's a civilian, but she, I think, she also showed leadership ability, and also the Sions have a sort of respect for people of power, right? Because they're a monarchy essentially now, right? An autocrat.
I think they were respecting her connection to Garma.
Yeah,
because they respect Garma. He kind of bleeds off onto her, and then the fact that
he's Lord. He's not just Garma, the general. He's Lord Garma.
Right. The fact that she has some leadership ability, the respect that they had for him, that's bleeding off onto her, and her ability. Plus, the guy who seemed to be left of the Garma's command was just willing to, I want revenge too. I'm kind of into you, but it's a bit too soon for that. So I'm just gonna try and win you over.
And die trying.
Well, I mean, he was the last guy to die. Second, well, he was the last guy to die. She was the last person to die.
Yeah. So yeah, even with that, it's like, that seems a little improbable. But within the meta of the show, it kind of makes sense, right? And we feel for the character, and I was sold on it. Any other show that would have been too melodramatic, right? Because she's not, for example, she was crying early on, and she did cry here, but it wasn't constantly crying. Like any of the shows, he's like, no, I'm gonna get revenge, right?
Yeah, she felt realistic.
I had my crying moment when my father beat the crap out of me. Fine, now I'm gonna get revenge, right?
Yeah, again, it's made worse by the plight that we know that she tried to rush out and save him. She got harangued by her family's staff and then hit by her father. So the tears that she feels there is carried over the fact that she knows, so she must suspect, that had she been able to do anything, she might have actually been able to save her love's life. And then all I can do now is avenge him.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, that's been this episode. Once again, I have been Theta. This has been Lessons. We've been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video and what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?